Welcome to our podcast, When Life Gives You Lemons. I'm Kevin Henry, and my partner in crime and wife is Palmi Henry. I have a rare disease known as Spinocerebellar Ataxia, which is a neuromuscular disease that's left me mobility challenged, as well as with a speech impediment and noise-induced anxiety.
Living with these disabilities, we have created some helpful hints and life lessons that we'd like to share and that have made our life possible. We consider ourselves disability advocates and intend to spotlight some disability issues and things we find interesting that we frequently encounter when we're out and about. So, hi, welcome to When Life Gives You Lemons podcast and Making the Lemonade YouTube channel. Can you believe this is our second year?
I can't believe that the first year went quickly, and yes, we did get better during the first year because we knew absolutely nothing when we started, and we just basically followed a bunch of YouTube videos which all said the same thing in common. Just start doing it.
Yeah, the more you do it, the better you'll get. And that we feel more comfortable doing it now. So we're adding to our little bundle here with the YouTube channel. So last year we investigated a lot of the different disabilities that are out there that affect many people. And we went through that. But this year we thought we'd take a little different turn, and we're going to introduce you a little bit more to Kevin. Kevin has been disabled for about 27 years. And we're going to go into 10 questions that kind of delves into how it started, what happened, and you'll see as the questions go along. But welcome, Kevin.
Hi.
All right, starting right off. What is your diagnosis?
My diagnosis is spinocerebellar ataxia, unknown, because most are known. But
And how are they determined known? How are they known?
Early on in the diagnostic process, the very first branch of the tree is hereditary or episodic, I believe they call it now. Sporadic when I got my diagnosis. But anyway, the hereditary is passed on by your family. And I have no other family members with this condition yet. So
We did several DNA tests to determine that it wasn't hereditary.
We did DNA tests of the most common ones that pop up.
But they were very expensive, like $2,000 every test.
No, they were a lot more than that.
That's what our cost
back
was.
then,
Yeah, that's what our cost was.
Nowadays you can pay I think a couple thousand and you get the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Everything that's out there.
But they're all considered end of life type diagnoses. So there's really no advantage to having determining where it came from, is there?
Well, the advantage to knowing whether it's hereditary or not is in my case, it's,
Yes.
the opportunity has gone by. I already have my children. So, and I'm not sure they want to know that in 20 years they're going to get what I got. So
A disability and live for the rest of their life like that.
Yeah.
I better to live your life.
Live under that shadow. So
we considered that when we did some of the DNA testing, whether we really actually wanted to know or not, because it wouldn't help his diagnosis any or him with the symptoms, because everybody has different symptoms and they don't come on at a certain time or schedule or anything like that. So it's not like it would have helped him. So was that what your first diagnosis was?
Well, it depends. The first accurate one, yes. But went through a couple other doctors who were like trying to chase down multiple sclerosis first. But multiple sclerosis produces lesions on your brain in your cerebrum. And they couldn't find any lesions, so they're like, eventually I got to one doctor who said this just got to be a new variant of MS. It doesn't cause lesions, so...
We spent like 3 years of diagnosing.
Yeah.
He spent multiple times in the hospital where we would go to one doctor and they would say, you need to have all these tests and it's easier to do it in the hospital because they can get them done after hours and stuff. And you wouldn't be waiting forever for these tests to eliminate what they were trying to eliminate. So he did that 1 week here in Cape at a local hospital, and then you did 1 week up in St. Louis with another doctor, and then a third doctor who we achieved and got an accurate diagnosis. He had another week. So we spent about a month in hospitals figuring out, not all at one time, but throughout the time period, within the 3-year period, trying to find a diagnosis. So.
Yeah, the only weird thing about that is they basically all did the same thing, but only the last doctor knew what he's looking for.
Right.
The others were like
elimination.
Almost like a general practitioner or a family doctor. He was just a generic neurologist. He'd been a neurologist for a number of years already. The second doctor, I don't believe he had been a neurologist that long. And the third guy specialized in movement disorders. So he had seen like all kinds of different neurological problems and how they progress. So
and this is
that was
rare.
a guy, it is a rare disease, but
so doctors are told not to look for zebras, to look for normal variances, and yours was very, very
very, very abnormal.
Abnormal, yeah. So, what symptoms did you get established, and what happened that made you think you were ill?
The first symptom I got was double vision in 1984. And at that time, I was in the U.S. Army, and military doctors have a kind of a different mentality when it comes to treating soldiers. It's like, let's put a Band-Aid on whatever the problem is and get back to work.
Right. So you had double vision.
I had double vision. He put prisms in my prescription, which forced my eyes to focus on one thing and basically took away the double vision.
However,
but
you still had issues, like you were very clumsy.
Well, part of the clumsiness comes from the effects because by doing that, your brain relies on each eye independently and does its own little trigonometry calculation how far stuff away is. When you're looking through prisms in your glasses, it's like looking at a computer monitor. It's a 2D image, and you rely on the size that something is to tell how far away it is, which can be problematic if it's like, I've actually met people who are like larger or smaller than they should be, yet perfectly proportioned so that you don't spot they're larger or smaller and you either overestimate how far they are or underestimate depending on their size.
And what your brain's adjusting it to, and the prisms. And was that, so that happened in 1984, and you got prisms. And then when did you start having some more issues?
In 1999, it was had done a very high stress job, and I went for a real low stress job. So basically, I was a security guard at a mall, and I
By
started.
that time, you had retired from the military. Too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
that
what
was.
you mean stressful job was the military job.
Yeah, it was different. I started slurring my words, and I'd lose my balance every now and then.
So he was having some issues falling down while on the job.
It was kind of like, I need to explain this to the boss, otherwise they're going to think I'm drinking on the job.
Yeah, because the slurring makes it sound like you're drunk, and the
staggering doesn't help
staggering
either.
doesn't help at all. Yeah, yeah. So those were the two major issues, right?
Yeah, once I saw they weren't going away, there's several things I had to do. One, I had to let the boss know that I wasn't really drinking on the job, and I had to make an appointment with my doctor. I had planned on doing this at 40 anyway, just because that's a good age to start entering your twilight years and get a thumbs up from your doctor, so to speak. And this was when I was about 39, so it was a little bit before that, but I needed to make that appointment so he could say the yes, there is something going on, or no, it will go away after, a couple weeks or something.
Yeah, we baffled quite a few doctors. So, yeah.
And of course, we went through a lot of doctors who said, I don't really understand what's going on, so I'll give your referral to somebody who does.
Right, there's a lot of transferring.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we were also dealing with Medicare because you were retired, so you had TRICARE, West, and then eventually, and trying to get hooked up with the VA and stuff like that. That was really hard. We ended up he was denied several times. Once we did figure out that he was disabled, was denied several times. So we eventually had to go to our senator, Emerson, Mrs. Emerson. And she eventually helped us get the disability, and he ended up being 100% disabled through the VA, which has helped. It's questionable because they will not treat his actual disease; they will treat his symptoms.
To be honest about this, there is no treatment for the disease, only the symptoms.
But things come up because of the symptoms.
Yeah, one of the hereditary SCAs, known as Friedreich's ataxia, is doing trials on the drug right now. And they are, that is by far a more serious form of ataxia than I have. Because it affects your circulatory system a lot of times before you even have any other symptoms. So,
yeah. But the VA does handle like his cholesterol, because he's in a chair and cannot exercise anymore. He does have diabetes. It is pre-diabetic, and we're working on that. So all that stuff the VA will handle, but they will not provide him with he has to have a drug called clozapam, which stops his tremors because he actually has muscle tremors, which are painful, and also cause other issues like falling down, hurting himself in other ways. He's had a broken hand. He's ripped his rotary cuff. He fell down, hit his knees, and had a ripped
ACL.
He ripped his ACL. So there was things that happened because of the disease, and those are they do handle a lot of that stuff. So that's very helpful. So how do you think you've dealt with your symptoms?
I suppose you want something more than badly.
No, I don't think you've done badly. Each case is individual. I mean, it was very, getting the diagnosis was heart-wrenching when you were in your late 40s or early 40s. So, and at that time, we for about 5 years, we were told he would only live for 5 years until we went further and further into the investigation and finding the actual cause. He was given a 5-year death sentence. That was
Wasn't fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and we had a very young child, and we had two boys that were in their 20s. So it limited a lot of stuff that he was able to do with his daughter and also his older sons. Traveling was harder. Communicating via the phone got difficult via the faraway children, and not going out and playing outside with our daughter. Stuff like that.
It is very difficult to carry on a conversation on the phone when you don't speak clearly. In our state, we have what's called 711 services, basically dedicated to hearing impaired persons. But there is the operators are trained in hearing carryover services. That is like, I can talk, but if it's somebody who won't understand what I'm saying, it's like, you talk for me, yeah.
So,
but I can hear what you're saying, so yeah, it's okay.
You hear it, but they type out or speak for you.
Correct.
Right. You've never used that though. We tried to.
I've used it one time.
Yeah.
One time, a long time ago.
Yeah. Usually, I'm on the conversation and can translate, or a lot of times we just don't give out Kevin's phone number. And my contact is the main contact for like medicals and stuff like that. So honestly, I think you've dealt with the diagnosis very well. Early on, you were able to stay out of the wheelchair for a very long time, almost 10 years, because you looked into other things to try to help. You were told that if you don't use it, you will lose it. And so you started...
Basically, when I first found out that this is going to alter the rest of my life and only get worse, and I need to use it or lose it, I went to a local martial arts school who specialized in disabled students.
Adaptation.
Yeah, adaptive martial arts is what they call it. Because, basically everybody with conditions is a little bit different. So, yes, you may be in a wheelchair, but I guarantee that if you get, 10 or so people in wheelchairs, they're all in there for different reasons. And that is not really including like your temporary diagnosis, like, oh, I messed up my knee. So, you had surgery on your knee and you have to spend like 4 weeks in your wheelchair before you're allowed to put weight on it or something like that.
And that kept you he went from, he was in a wheelchair, he started off in a wheelchair, and then you went to a cane, and then to a walker. And then eventually it got so, after a couple of falls, we determined it was best if he went back into the chair. But he was able to stay out of it for a good 10 years, and that was because he was keeping the strength up in his arms and legs and stuff like that. That's very important because all his transferring is done via his arms. So he has to keep his arms very strong and fit. Same thing with his legs in order to be able to transfer. So in my perspective, I thought you dealt with it. There was some depression, and there was some, but that's just normal. I mean, you have to grieve what you've lost before you can move on. So,
it was especially hard when they give you that 5-year timeline.
You're hurrying and rushing, trying to get everything. We immediately went and got a will and, health proxies and stuff like that. We wanted to make sure we were being responsible. We had children that we still relied on us. So, question here, what do you wish you would have done before your diagnosis?
There's a lot of things that, like, one of your later questions is going to deal with bucket lists. There's a lot of things I wanted to do that I didn't have the ability to do anymore because my mobility is limited. And in other parts of the world, it's, if you're in a wheelchair, you're just plain luck.
A lot of places aren't handicapped accessible.
Yeah.
So, but I meant, I think you mentioned to me one time that back in the 1984, you wish you had investigated maybe further.
If I could go back in time, I would have asked the doctors here in the future, if you will, are saying, that eye doctor should have known you had double vision for a reason. And that reason is there's usually something wrong with your brain or your nerves, and he should have consulted a neurologist, but he did not. So
I don't know that it would have changed anything.
I couldn't really tell you either.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's always it is, right? And what do you wish you would have done after? Was there anything you wish you had done after your diagnosis that you didn't do?
Well, I was kind of playing it by ear at first. I always was interested in martial arts, and so I took advantage of that. Well, I needed exercise. You need to think about your balance and all that stuff. So I thought that was a good route to start with.
The mental part of it is what really has helped, because you have to break things down, don't you? Mm-hmm. When you're you have a disability, this movement disability, you have to think all the time what your arms and your legs and where everything's going and what happens if it doesn't go where you think it's going to go. So I think the mentality of the martial arts structure.
Oh, plus there are some things in martial arts you just can't do. You can't, no, let me rephrase that. You can't do right. They don't look pretty. They wouldn't pass under normal standards, if you will. But you've got to know your limitations and say, okay, I can do that, but in a different way. I've got to either take an extra step, or one of the things that, for example, in Taekwondo, when you're going from, I believe it was green belt to blue belt, there's a form you have to learn in our school called Sa Chung, Teguk Sa Chung. The very end, you balance on one foot with the other foot standing behind you, just touching your toes to the mat. It's like, impossible. That's not going to work for me for more than like 30 seconds. I can hold it that long, but after that, I'm going to fall on somebody, really, is, the best way to
what rank did you achieve?
First on black belt.
Very good. Yeah, very proud of you there. It was a lot of figuring stuff out and learning moves and stuff like that, and I think it really had helped you. Even now, I think it has helped you.
Yeah, if you listened to our podcast last season, Alan Williams, who was one of the interviewees, was my instructor. Yeah. Alexis is one of my fellow students. She was a lot younger than.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on. What have you learned from being handicapped? Empathy?
Empathy, because basically, when you see a car with handicap tags, you don't know what's going on or who is handicapped. So you can't just instantly judge, oh, you don't really deserve that handicap parking spot. You just jumped out of your car and walked in the store. Oh, maybe they have some mental challenges or hearing issues or, things that aren't obvious to the naked eye. If you don't know them, you're not in a position to judge them.
Anything else that you've learned?
Yeah.
They're very brave, aren't they?
Well, we've done a fair bit of traveling, and everywhere I go, people are really nice, offering to hold something for you or hold the door open or whatever. But kids are really in their own world, so like there's a lot of
Curiosity.
jumping in front of you when they shouldn't, sort of thing,
Or
going on.
The wheelchair.
Or touching for especially small children. We're alone with, I believe, my nephew, and he's just fascinated by the wheels on my wheelchair. So he's like, I need to touch it. And of course, I need to take a bite out of it.
That didn't work very well. Okay, getting to that question you had foreshadowed before. What's on your bucket list?
It's kind of, as I explained to you, it's kind of a two-pronged approach. I have what was on my bucket list that, there are a few things I can't do anymore. I can't, and two things come to mind. I like history. I believe I've already explained that before on our podcast, but I really would have liked to have seen the Great Pyramids of Giza. And then I also like the Mayan city of Machu Picchu. And those are kind of like out of the question now.
Because you don't just want to go there and look. You want to actually get involved
and
do a little bit of exploring.
Exactly.
And there's caves that you'd like to gone into and stuff like that.
When you're younger, I'll say, you think of, I'd like to explore, be the Indiana Jones, notice something in the room that's never been noticed before, but hey, I'm not in their doorways, so that's kind of like...
But we've done quite a bit of traveling, and we've been able to add to some of the bucket list stuff.
The good news is, in this day and age, there's a lot of museums that have virtual tours online that you can cruise through.
Or you can go to the museum, and we've done quite a few museums at different places that we've gone, and it gives you a fair view of what's going on.
Yeah, museums are usually a fairly safe bet for handicapped people.
And there's more and more stuff every day.
Yeah, there is. We were at the Apple store the other day, and one of the big things that are for sale in Apple in 2024 is the virtual reality system they have built in, and eventually I'm sure you'll be able to get those online museum tours I mentioned. Via virtual reality, you'll be seeing stuff.
Yeah, I think there is some. I think there's some now that you can actually do. Okay, what do you think is the most difficult thing from your diagnosis and in dealing with your symptoms too? What's your most... You told me about the bathroom thing the other day.
The bathroom
Well, getting up in the middle of the night and having to
that was an example, dear.
Right, yeah.
Like, I get where you're asking now. Okay, the example I gave to Palmi when we practice this is like when you have no mobility issues, you just if you wake up in the middle of the night and you have to pee, you just kind of half awake, stumble into the bathroom, flip the light on, take care of your business, go back to bed, go to sleep. No, it doesn't work that way. And when you're handicapped, it's like, crap, I got to pee. So that means I have to get in the wheelchair. To do that, I need to first put my feet on the floor, sit on the bed, slide down, grab the footboard, stand up, turn around, put my butt in the wheelchair seat so I don't fall, put the arms down so I don't fall out the wheelchair. You get my drift.
It's like multiple things that he's.
There are like dozens of puzzles you have to solve getting there and back. By the time you get back, you're wide awake. Your mind is active because you've already been using this quite a bit. It's like, I'm not going to fall back to sleep right away, am I?
And that happens with everything you do. So it's mind taxing. By the end of the night, you're exhausted because that's what he does every single day for just simple movement. He has to think through each little process in order to get there successfully. And the success is not to hurt himself any further. So,
or out of consideration, I also try not to make too much of a mess when I'm doing things. Doesn't always work.
Doesn't always work, yeah.
But,
and I wear ear plugs in my ears, so I don't hear him getting up anyhow. Otherwise, I'd be wide awake too. Because then I'm worrying: has he hit something, or is he gonna fall down, or there's a lot of things with caretaking too that you have to. So he'll yell at me loud enough to hear if he does fall down and stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty good about that.
Yeah. And our dogs are really good. So we have two little Chihuahuas, and one's the little nursemaid for Kevin, follows him around behind his wheelchair all the time. And the other one, we actually trained him early on when he was a puppy that if Kevin fell, he would come get me. And so he runs, and if something happens with Kevin, he runs and gets me and tells me something's wrong, and I come back. Say I'm downstairs or something. Otherwise, I would have heard him. But if I'm like downstairs and doing laundry or something, and didn't hear him.
Sometimes when you're downstairs, you can hear me too.
Yeah. Especially if you're cussing and swearing because you fell and hurt something.
Followed by a lot of profanity.
There you go.
And eventually I'll say, Palmi!
And I'm running along with two Chihuahuas trying to get there. So, let's end this on a happy note here. What is your happy place? Where do you go? Because there's a lot of stress in your life.
There are two answers to that. One is the mental thing. I can be on the phone with a not understanding person. I cannot communicate with you very well. I'm having problems saying the words I need to say so you'll understand my problem. Or I spend 20 minutes trying to go through an automated menu who won't understand me. So it's like, by the time I actually talk to a live human being, I'm stressed out. I'm like angry, irritable. It's
short-tempered.
Yeah. For those things, I just kind of close my eyes and think of basically memories, good things that happened to me in life.
Give me one.
Like my family, my kids, my, night trip we were on. It's always common to think about things that went well, but we've had trips where things didn't go well, so I tried not to think about those because that'll get me even more irritated.
We have lots of happy times, though.
Physically, the best release for anger is usually commonly exercise. Well, I'm not really in a position to exercise as much as I used to. And I used to, when I exercised via martial arts, that used to accommodate that stress physically. But lately I've been looking into like chair yoga, chair tai chi, just different things that, yes, I remain seated, but I still get some exercise benefit out of.
It's not just the exercise; it's the part that it relieves, gives you what is it called? Oxycodone, whatever it is.
It's not oxycodone.
Yeah, it's not oxycodone. You wish it was that, yeah. But anyways, it releases happy hormones and stuff like that. So he needs to do more of that, though. So I want him to work out with me, and he will. We did it up till about 2 years ago, and then he's not, because it's such a hassle to get in the car and out of the car and stuff like that for him. I'm sure that's what it is. So
it is.
Yeah.
It's not the time.
And also people looking at you while you're in the wheelchair, and
I don't usually mind that. No. One of my jobs in the Army was training other people. And early on, you've heard of like stage fright, getting tongue-tied. It didn't matter how many people were out there listening to what I was saying. It never really bothered me. I didn't get nervous about it unless there was somebody I knew in the audience and value their, perception of me. That bothers me. It bothers me if I had to explain something to Palmi, because it matters what she thinks to me, what she thinks about me. And same for my children, parents, children, dogs, I guess. But
yeah. Okay, you said that was your mental happy place. Is the other one physical?
Well, in a way, yes, because if I'm, like, say, when we went to the Apple store at the problem with Spine, it was a problem with Palmi's phone, so, I'm just a spectator, so I didn't have too much stress about that. But we're at my phone, and I was trying to explain the problem, or, for example, some with my computer. I'm trying to explain over the phone to the manufacturer what is wrong. It just puts you in a kind of weird headspace. It's irritated, but...
So what do you do when it's a physical? Same thing? Think of happy places you've been, or...
Well, no. I like to have a little fun.
Oh, yes, I remember this. Go ahead. Kevin's sarcastic, by the way. He has a very weird sense of humor, sarcastic sense of humor. So you have to know that. Now go. Go understand it now.
I'll give you an example, okay? For a long time, I was doing physical therapy on this hand.
Because he broke his hand and he had to have a surgery on it.
But there's only one lady who does physical therapy specializing on the hands in
our one, but she's an expert.
In our area.
Yeah.
It's if something involves physical therapy on the hands, every doctor in our area calls this lady. Well,
and he had extensive problems with that hand for a long time. So he's been going to her for about 3 years. So you have to understand the relationship there. Yeah.
Yeah, she gets me. She gets my weird sense of humor and all that. But part of her job as the one and only hand specialist is our local university is Southeast Missouri State University. And they have a physical therapy, I want to say program.
Yeah.
It might just be a class. I don't know.
Right.
I haven't really delved into what they offer, but part of that is the students have to go out and speak to various physical therapists that find out the ins and outs or, potential problems of the field before they get into it, so to speak. And one guy, I remember this, he, I had made an appointment to shadow Donna. And she was explaining things like why we put our hands in paraffin, why we have heat to warm up, why we do this exercise, all that. And so we went a little bit long over a period. And basically, the guy is just, processing, okay, I'm learning all this stuff. But what I really want to ask, he waited for Donna to, because she was running behind her or something, I guess she had to talk to the lady to, take care of her appointments or whatever. And he said, real soft, so nobody else could hear him, hey man, why are you in the wheelchair? That's when I, get really full of stress. Well, there was this UFO, and they tried to shoot at it, but they hit the satellite. It came down and hit me out of the blue. And
So you like messing with people.
Yeah, basically.
So you never know what you're gonna get with Kevin.
And
believe it or not, Kevin said the guy just said, "Oh," and walked away.
Yeah, most people kind of realize you're having a little fun at their expense, and they'll either, tell you to shut up or,
Yeah. Typically, you don't do that.
Whatever.
So you were just frustrated from the hand
and
exercise.
it'll let you get a little bit of
Fun out of it. Torture. You're torturing somebody else.
leave all of the stress, in my case.
There you go. All right. Well, I think this calls it a podcast and a YouTube channel. We will get back with you next month. And I'm not sure what we're going to do next month. Do you know?
I have a couple ideas, but we haven't talked about it, no.
Okay. Well, it'll be a surprise to you and me both. All right. Thank you for joining us. We are always looking to improve the podcast, so if you want to hear a specific topic discussed, drop us an email. Our contact information is listed on our website. It's www.whenlifegivesyoulemons.net.